Okay, so I'm just going to show that that essentially it's a late Sunday afternoon when they're not allowed to make any mechanical noise or do any physical local council work on the neighbourhood. And immediately, as soon as I open the door, and I can hear it in the house, but it's not loud. But look, outside my door, what is this? What is this going on here? Like, what is it? I can't even see what it is. It's just some random, oh yeah, it's some random vehicle there just in the distance, but the sound, it's halfway down this small dead-end street, and they're doing some sort of, I don't know what it is, but the noise is not loud, but it's still there to where you're aware of their presence, so it's not like the usual stage work that's around, you know. It's like some sort of drainage or something, but essentially, you know, it's like every single thing, you know, it's like wherever, whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, just avoiding, because the reason I'm talking loud like that is because someone was standing right next to me watching next door. I didn't want to film them. But essentially what I'm trying to point out, that sound will not be picked up by the mobile, but there is actually stage work going on outside on a quiet Sunday, late afternoon, to where the sun's nearly down. So they actually can't stop with their presence on the street, even though it's actually not legal to be doing work on a Sunday. But either way, this happens to me wherever I go. Like if I go down any street in this suburb, they will always be digging up the footpath. Yesterday I went down the road to get a coffee and some groceries, and basically they dug up half the footpath in two lots of just 2 blocks of streets where I was going. I only went 2 blocks and both streets had the staged workmen with digging up the footpath on the streets. And they had already dug up footpath on the lane where I went a few days before. So basically these workforces, which is like a completely controlled city council operated, army controlled, really. It's really like the army posing as community council workers, because I think most that are part of, say, the military army groups, it wouldn't matter because they employ normal workmen anyway. But a lot of them are actually part of the army or the military, system. These things are very hard to explain, but they're basically all the same groups of people. And the only reason I turned the mobile on was to show that there was work being done once again on this small dead-end street, even on a Sunday. Yesterday, of course, you had the major construction going on next door to next door that has been going on for 1.5 years and will continue to go on. And then after that's finished, they will pull another place down and stage another military-operated apparent work. Council work operation in the street. This just goes on year after year, day after day. It's been going on for 7 years straight, where almost every single day of the year you have some sort of work being done in a small dead-end street where there's only a small limited number of houses. So, you know, this just would not be plausible if it was a normal street, would it? I ask anyone this. And this, of course, is just wasting my energy too, because I was actually just going to sit down and have a cup of coffee. But instead, I go outside because I hear this funny noise coming into the house, even though it's not real loud. But upstairs, when I go up the steps up to the top room, I can actually hear it much louder, which is also another thing too. It's designed so that wherever you go in this particular place, you've always got some sort of sound coming into your ears, whether it be people standing outside under your window, the patrollers, stalkers that will perch themselves underneath your window and shout or scream really loud, whether it be the stage traffic that revs their car engines up as they go past and park outside the house, beeping their horns, stage setup, police and fire sirens continually when they're because many of these particular organisations have particular individuals that are what you call undercover cops, or what do they call it, where you are I can't remember the name, but it's essentially where you have staged or set up policemen, workers of various sorts that are basically not real, in the sense that they are doing everything against the organisation that they work for. In other words, if you are meant to be in the medical profession, but you're actually not trying to preserve the life of your patients, that type of thing. In other words, you're pretending to be that, but you're actually working against that because you're serving Lucifer's matrix. This fella in this video here, this fella is called Wissam Haddad, even though I've never, obviously never had the pleasure of a conversation with him, but I've been aware of him for a few years, but only just gone back to the videos, realising how close they are to my own reality. Because, see, he's got the buses going past. He's showing you how he's basically being stalked into oblivion, and that it is through, he says, a microchip that is the size of dust in his eyes, where the patrollers that are part of the bus and the traffic system and all the people around him actually have connection to that microchip. And this is a very similar experience to what I experience daily. And you realise that it's so finely tuned that they know they have your whereabouts tracked down to the finest detail. In fact, they actually show you that they know where you are actually going to go, because they leave like stones and things on the footpath as if to say that's your next step, because they actually know that you've only got a few choices. Like if you go to a certain spot, you can only, it's a bit like going to a crossroad, you can only go one way or the other. So they basically leave indications that they're watching you in both those locations. So they know that you either go down one street or the other if you are going to a particular destination. Because as this so-called microchip, which is like very intrusive technology, is so small that you can't see it. I can actually see it in my eyes, but even if I couldn't, it would still be there, because it's actually should be invisible. Now, this fellow actually says the same thing, that when he had some eye operation, that was when it was implanted. I myself lost my eyesight when I was 25, and even the incidence of me losing that eyesight, actually, see, it's showing how he's always surrounded by all these people. That's right. Most of them, you've always got people in your line of sight. They're always in your presence. Or there's always traffic with road rage around you. There's always vehicles. There's always some emotion or movement, as he points out. See, movement is emotion, and emotion is frequency, vibration, and energy. So in reality, see, this fella is showing you, this Wissam gentleman is showing you how he is being surrounded by these stalking patrollers. They actually are tracking him completely, And see how he's got all the buses in front? That's very similar to me. In fact, I actually have the Army bus depot right on the corner, just down the end of my dead-end street. So it's strategically placed to where the bus numbers have now multiplied to an astronomical amount. In other words, where you used to only see the bus coming and going either late of a night or early in the morning, now you can go down there and they just pile in and out past you and follow you all over the suburb. And they're basically just circling around you. But you can't prove that. You know it's true. And they make no bones about it when they show you that they're completely off their normal bus routes, that they're, you know, that you have back-to-back buses, so that can't possibly be that they're on routes. So he's literally being stalked into oblivion there with all these people around him. Most of the time, they do it in strategic continual flow, so that it's not very obvious, so that it looks more subtle. The traffic is never subtle in my case, neither are the aeroplanes, but the actual stalking, patrolling pedestrians are usually continual, always in your sight, and always making their presence felt. You can never not see a stalker, but they're usually in a continual flow to where it's like one always appearing in your sight every, say, 10, 15 seconds. Or as immediately wherever you divert your gaze. In other words, wherever my senses go, they strategically have a stalking patroller to come into your line of sight. It's all done with fine precision because they are studying you and actually watching you at a very targeted, very tracking, advanced level. In other words, they must be using the nanotechnology of what they call the microchip to do this. If it was less strategic and more random, in other words, you could have like a community of stalkers that decide they want to stalk a particular individual because you're different to them, or you have different beliefs, or they just like a video game to fill in their time because they're sadistic, psychopathic, malignantly narcissistic, personality disordered people, then you could have that. But it would be more disorganized. You would still feel completely suppressed and completely surrounded and completely stalked and as though you have no life and no freedom. But it is actually done at a much more technical, a much more high-tech level. It is very finely tuned. It is down to a split second. And that's how you know that their tracking is using advanced technology. You know, they couldn't do it otherwise. But only you experience it. So that's the problem. So I can show you from now till the cows come home, that, you know, that there's always excessive sound and always excessive work situations being done wherever I go. I could show that. And some people would say, yes, that is a little bit beyond coincidence. And some people might say, yes, there's a few too many people on the street if it's 2 or 3 in the morning, always popping up no matter where you went, like I could not be alone no matter what. You cannot be allowed to have your own peace of mind or be on your own. In the past, they know that I enjoy going out very late of a night when I was younger and actually being totally alone, because it gives you some sense of peace. Maybe at some level I was aware that I was not aware that I'm not compatible or not feeling very comfortable in, say, a crowd. This doesn't matter because it's probably telling you something. But either way, see, this gentleman's now on the bus, so I won't worry about that. What was I going to say? Yeah, I was just going to make the point though, just before I fold up this video and stop it, I was just going to make the point that that when I lost my eyesight when I was 25, and I'm now well over double that, and into older age and feeling it. But also the point is that I lost my eyesight. I will explain how, and I will just tell you the incident because I continued to lose it for 10 years later, on and off, maybe every 2 or 3 months. But then it would pass over very quick. I would just have to cover my eyes for many an hour and then the eyesight would come back. But that was because my eyes were irritated because there is a microscopic dust microchip in them. And even medical people have told me that the eyes are badly scarred. So how could that be? But either way, what happened that led to me actually going to a medical eye doctor was because I lost the eyesight and was in great pain. So I was forced to. But one day I was in a different area and I'd actually moved my residence, which the powers that be did not like that, I don't think, because I felt a bit better. So they made me lose my eyesight to go to a medical practitioner, and I moved back to where I was uncomfortable and suppressed. But either way, what happened was that I actually lost the eyesight this way. I'm going to tell you how I lost it. I took it, I believe that it happened because this is exactly what happened. I had to go a few blocks into a building, that day. So I took a shower and used a shampoo. And as soon as I went outside to walk a couple of blocks to the building, I was hit by blinding light off the pavement the whole time that I walked. It was like reflecting back this blinding light into my eyes. And by the time I got to the building, I was in great pain and could not see a single thing. That's exactly what happened. And even to this day, and years later, I wondered what had happened. But I subsequently kept losing my eyesight temporarily for up to 10 years past that, because my eyes were still irritated in some way. But I believe that after I went to the medical eye doctor to restore my eyesight, which essentially they just put something in there and, they make the eyes numb so you don't feel any pain. And I think they put a microchip particle into them, which they can then use to connect to their tracking technical computer system, which I don't understand this, but it's part of their tracking, because I know that they can see everything I can see, and I know that they can hear everything I'm saying, and I know that they can track me down to the finest detail, to where they know every step I'm taking, even almost before I take it, because they've the technology is tracking you to your exact spot. This is without a doubt because I have tried to escape their tracking system by going down dark lanes, just going even into, hiding, trying to hide just even in any little crevice or space I can find over the last number of years in the area where I am. And you cannot run or hide anywhere. They will send someone in there no matter where you are at any given second, because they have to make their presence known. This is how you know you're being stalked and patrolled relentlessly, persistently, and 100%. Because it just wouldn't be possible for them to always have a person coming into the darkest alley, in the darkest street, at 2 or 3 in the morning, where you think, oh, I've got 2 seconds now, there's no one around, then someone will pop out or a car will come down that dark lane. When in the past you know that you wouldn't even get anyone or any vehicle on most of the streets that I would now go onto. Whereas now there's a continual flow of bumper to bumper traffic. Yesterday, I literally had cars lined up at a standstill. In other words, a traffic jam on a street where you should only get a few cars. That's just like showing me the legions of Lucifer, because that's exactly how I interpret them. I interpret them as an army of Lucifer's vehicles, which is its army, where these individual cars are just lined up one after the other, and they're deliberately stalled in front of you, extracting energy from you because you're exhausted and intimidated by their stalking presence. And there's nothing you can do about it, because you know it's not a real traffic jam, because you know that it's not the times when there should be a traffic jam or where there should be an excessive amount of traffic on the road. Like today, for instance, is Sunday, which is normally, if it was a normal random city, Sunday would be quiet on the roads around here because no one's going to work, and also there's no activities, there's not as many things open. But also it just would not be normal. Whereas in the early morning and at certain times, on Monday to Friday, particular days, you would have a certain amount of traffic only on certain roads. You still should be able to walk down the back way like I have done for the last 30 years, where you should only see the odd car. You shouldn't see trucks and buses and excessive cars bumper to bumper, or to where there's a continual flow of traffic. The only reason I used to walk down the back way was because there was no traffic in the past, because it was quiet. Now I can't walk down there without having people always in my sight, whether it be from just a couple of houses, a couple of random streets, just one block. You will have people coming in and out of houses, cars pulling in and out of a small lane where there's only one or two houses. It doesn't make any common sense. The numbers don't match. But actually proving or showing this is rather difficult. You know, because you have been in the area for a long time, so you know the traffic, you know the roads, you know the number of population in the area. I live in Leichhardt, which has a population of 14,000, which is a small football field. And yet, the actual population of the area when I go out is at least, 150,000, even though they're not all in one group, but that continual flow. If it was a real suburb, you wouldn't have the amount of people. Like, for instance, when I went into the supermarket, I looked at the car park before I went into the supermarket. And it's a small supermarket in a small little section in Leichhardt. In reality, if it was a real suburb, there would be a certain number of cars in that car park. It was also a very wet, cold, dreary day. And yet every single parking space in that little parking spot for the little supermarket where I was going into was completely full. So that meant that every single space in there was filled. So it must have been filled with, say, 2,000 or something like that cars for a suburb at a given moment that only has 14,000. And they're all there, all parked with their red Lucifer's light on. Red is the colour of Lucifer, the god of earth. As if to say, stop. Red is like, stop, we own this area. We control you in this area. But it wouldn't be possible that on a wet, dreary day, in the middle of the day, that every single parking spot, over 2,000 parking spots, were filled with cars. And many of them with their red lights on to let you know that they are Lucifer's legions, or that they're all at least combined in this patrol car system. That's just an example of what takes place in this area. I ask you, is that common sense? That there should be many thousand parking spots, all completely full. You could not find a space in just one small little supermarket shopping centre on a wet day in the middle of the day. That happens every time I go there. It doesn't matter what time of night or day. Even when it's like close to 11 o'clock when they close, late of a night. In the past, you'd be lucky to see anyone. Also, the entire supermarket is infiltrated with army operatives or army staged work people that work in the actual supermarket. That also would not be likely that everyone should be packing the shelves. This never happened in the past. You would have only a few people packing shelves. In fact, most of the time, if I go back long enough in a supermarket, you would not see people packing shelves while the store is actually open and serving customers. They would pack the shelves, and that would be enough to last for many an hour or a whole day even, where people buy stuff. And you would just have a few people serving you on the counter. And of course these days it's all automated and all self-serve, which is of course computer technology, which appears to be a benefit, which I would use, but I now realise that it's also part of the computer technology takeover. It's all about introducing openly what they already have staged and set up in the reality. So it's all about total human control, nothing more. And I better fold up because I'm just trying to show the example of how there is always stage work going on in this street outside my door. It's not always outside my door, but as you can see, it's always within your earshot, because I could, even though it's very quiet today is quiet, but they still have to make their presence felt by putting that van there, making that low-pitched noise which the mobile won't pick up, so that I'm aware that they're out there. And yet they're not even supposed to do work on a Sunday. And how many streets can they keep digging up? They keep digging up the same footpaths, digging up the same streets, always doing these staged work setup, council community programmed setup, staged, patrolling, stalking, either sight or sound suppression of you, because you're always aware of their uniforms, you're always aware of having army operatives on the street, you're always aware of their physical presence, and you're always aware of the noise they make. Yesterday, same thing, stage set up, digging up the footpaths everywhere you go, all on the space of a few streets, and the minute you buy a drink and decide to sit on a seat only for 5 minutes, the immediate neighbours will, or anyone that's near you will start up with some sort of sound program against you. In other words, they will do some sort of work that makes a very aggressive, loud sound so that you can't sit in peace and have the drink. This happens every day of the week, every day of the year, no exceptions, wherever you go, or wherever I go anyway. And this is just human suppression. And it's showing me that that is the future they have, and which will be an open operation of humanity in the future. But also it's about keeping a human being that they think probably won't fit into that program suppressed and angry and agitated while you're living, the time you've got left, which probably isn't even very long. So it shows that they are very keen to keep that suppression. It wouldn't matter whether it was just a bunch of psychopaths that make up most of the population of, say, a suburb, that decide to collaborate and combine together in some sort of video game to control and eliminate a human being because they enjoy that process of control, and they also don't forget that malignant narcissistic people are incredibly envious and competitive. So they basically, we're told, see everyone as competition, everyone as a threat to their attention-seeking narcissism. So if they see you sitting down in the park and they think you're somehow eliciting attention, even though you're just sitting there and minding your own business and actually want to be on your own and have some peace and quiet, they don't see it that way because they're focused on the external world. Malignant narcissistic people focus on everyone around them. They don't live their own life. They live, as we're told, precariously, or what's the word? They live their life through another person. So they live, what's that description? They live through other people's view of them, and they live through how they see other people and how other people see them. So they're living precariously, or a second existence, through everyone and everything in their environment. They don't actually live for themselves, they live for how other people see them. It's all about the persona and the image, which is very much reminiscent of Lucifer, the god of earth, because that being is very much about how its image has to be seen as the being of light and how it has to be seen as God. And these beings, the malignant narcissistic people, also are the same. They see themselves as controllers of their reality. They're not about controlling themselves or about anything directed at their actual internal self, shall we say. They project everything out, even anything they don't, that they can't accept in themselves. They basically project onto other people. That way they continue in their existence of being guilt and remorse-free, which is, of course, the mentality of a psychopath. Psychopaths do not experience any guilt or any remorse. They can do what they like. They feel justified. They don't feel or experience any association with life in any way. So therefore, naturally, they don't experience any guilt or remorse if they harm life in any way, because they don't see it as life. If you think everything is just all the same and everything is just material, but you don't actually feel for life, you don't actually associate yourself. In other words, you don't relate to life. So if you see life suffering, it means nothing to a psychopath. We know this, so we're told this, and this is also the same of the malignant narcissistic personality disordered types. This is also the same as the god of this world that does not relate or have any affiliation with humanity. In fact, actually sees humanity, like the malignant narcissist, as a threat and competition to its glory of being seen as God. These are very competitive, very self-serving, but also I can't quite explain it, but basically some people, you could describe it any way that the psychologists do. I'm not sure how accurate it is. You do see exaggerated superiority and power and control being shown by just normal civilians. And that's like they feel powerful by controlling a human being. And you have to ask yourself, why is this the case? And essentially, you have to ask yourself that. Because they don't, they're living through you, and because they can't experience the same things as you. In other words, if they're actually living and breathing your existence through your nanotechnology microchip or implants that are in your body, whether it be through consumption or a real legitimate microchip, shall we say, if they're experiencing your reality so that they can have immortality or something like that in their own mind, but they actually don't relate to that. In other words, they're experiencing your human sensations, but it kind of isn't their sensations, shall we say. So they probably react quite strongly to that. You know, a psychopath would react very strongly if a human being felt any sort of high vibration. It would be I would think it would be very uncomfortable sensation. It would probably make them angry, like the road rage that you experience around you at the traffic patrolling level. They actually are they're forcing themselves to experience your existence so that they can have immortality or not become extinct, but it isn't compatible with them. So therefore it makes them want to eliminate your presence a lot, I think. And that's the problem with this thing. This fella's gone a bit mad here with the video. Unfortunately, he's filming it far too fast, but he's showing the vast amount of people stalking around him just on a random little city excursion, shall we say. And that's actually true. See how they're always sitting around him? That's like what I experience daily just in the suburb of Leichhardt. In fact, most of them will even not hide their actual loitering, stalking position, because they will just stand right in front of you. They'll actually stand there. The mobile phone, of course, is not only their source of communication with their fellow patrollers, but it also is a loitering reason to just stop and stand everywhere. You know, whereas in the past, if you saw people just always loitering around you, just standing, doing nothing, they may look at you or they may not, but it doesn't matter. It's the same with vehicles, where you have people just sitting in vehicles late of a night with their lights and headlights still blaring at you, and they'll just sit there while you walk past. Not only in the distance as you come towards them, but they will just stay there. They won't pull out. They won't go anywhere. They'll just sit there with their headlights blinding your eyes, showing you that they're literally stalking, menacing, perverse vehicles, because it makes you feel very self-conscious and very uncomfortable. And you wonder what they're thinking. And that's exactly what they want. They want you to be mentally disturbed, because it is mentally disturbing. You feel mentally disturbed thinking, what is going on in the mind of these people? And then you have to say, well, they must be psychopathic. And then at some point you realise that they are artificially intelligent androgyne beings. You put the pieces of the puzzle together, but it wouldn't matter if they were just all psychopathic, but either way, you know that they have a very disturbed mentality, because they're essentially stalking continuously on a daily basis, stalking the same people that they haven't even had any association with, and they're in massive numbers. So you have to say, how could this be? Why would this be? Why do they all have the same mind? Of course, you could say, well, they're all psychopathic and they enjoy a video game of stalking a real human, which they see as prey of their video game, just like hunters like to hunt and track down animals, and it gives them satisfaction. Because psychopaths like a power play, they like a power game. You could say that. It doesn't matter what definition you want to use to describe these actual human machine beings. I say they're human machine beings because they don't have any humanity, and they all combine, and they do it as though their survival depends on it. And you know, they're relentless. They come at you from the left, from the right, from above, from below, from behind. They surround you in a covert, subtle patrolling system. It's subtle only to an outside observer, but if you had it, like I say, an aerial view of it, and you just saw, say, for instance, myself as the target, you would actually, and you could put dots and show how there was, say I was a green light, and everything around me are these dots of red lights that are always circling around me, in a continual circle almost, or at least wherever my eyes look. Because don't forget, my senses control my mind and my emotions. So it's wherever I look. So if I'm looking straight ahead, there will always be a patrol car in front. There will always be a stalker in front. If, for whatever reason, say it was a dead end and it was late of a night and I was right at the end of the dead end, and physically they can't place a stalker in front of you or a vehicle in front of you, although they usually can bring one behind you, so you're still aware of the presence, and they'll send a plane directly over your head. But usually, they will always find a way to take over your sight and sound, so that you never have your own peace of mind. This fella, see, I was going to have a drink, but see how he's showing how he's speeded it up to show you how basically there's always these people all around. They're always just perched around. Even when he goes like to that public domain where they can't bring in vehicles, you see. See how there's always people, and he's probably standing there and they're literally all around him. See? He's speeded it up to show how they're always surrounding him and they're literally always in his line of sight and they're always coming into his presence. And there probably shouldn't be anyone hardly at all in this area. These are not people that are just coming to this area to visit. And it's the same where I go, where you know that it's not possible to have every car park and every car space filled. And even if you, like for instance, go into what you think should be a quiet area, these people will bring some sort of noise program against you into the area. There will always be some mechanical activity going on in the places around you, so that so it's within your earshot. Usually, if they think that you are enjoying something in any way, they will make the sound excessively loud so that you basically have to get up and leave. If you endure it, you'll be uncomfortable if it's not too loud. But even then, you will never be able to enjoy any peace and quiet, or any sense of space, or any sense of freedom. And that is actually the reality. Even these people are possessed with what you call a demonic mindset, and even the different ages, the different groups, doesn't matter who or what you are, they always have these programs in place. They always have people around you making excessive noise, excessive negative sound. It's never pleasant sound, but even if it was not unpleasant sound, it's always something distracting you from what you're doing or what you want to do, or even just your sense of peace and space. Like if you just want to relax for a few minutes and, do something. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter where you go. It's a total mind control matrix for the remaining limited number of human beings. And if human beings realised how limited they are in number, but also how surrounded they are by anti-life human beings, and when I say anti-life, I mean they are anti-life, they are anti-you, because they are about stalking and patrolling you into oblivion. They're not about just watching you to see that you fit in with them or that you don't do something that goes against the laws of the land. No, it's about the opposite. It's about provoking you into being agitated, unhappy and aggressive, so that then they look like the good guys and you look like the bad guys. They don't like the fact that you're a normal human and that you're not basically like them, I think. I think they don't like that. They want you to experience, I've actually been told this a few years ago, they want you to experience how they feel and they want to experience how you feel. Unfortunately, incompatibility, two minds that are totally different shouldn't be coming together, just as these cyborgs and their computer-generated Earth should not be part of the human existence. But this is something that we're conditioned to think is okay, but it probably isn't. And I think that I'm shown that every day by these cyborg beings that are basically, when I say cyborg, I mean that they're using technology, they're using advanced tracking methods and microchips and just even the basic computers and mobiles to completely surveil and suppress an individual older human being that just wants to be left alone and live their own life and doesn't particularly want to stop their existence, but at the same time doesn't want to, and can't be part of that. I mean, in a way, you actually can't be part of it. And that's another thing too, is that they're only part of your existence because they want what makes you tick because they think it will benefit them. But it's at the expense of you, if you really think about it. Because looking at it realistically, if they're about trying to understand the human kind of mind and psyche because they think that they are going extinct because they're a technical species. And even if this wasn't the case, if you just had that the population now has become malignantly narcissistic in general, in other words, that the average person is really malignantly narcissistic and psychopathic and paranoid in their personality or in their, so that means that they automatically then are going to want to control another human being because that's what the psychopathy of these psychologically disordered human beings is. We're told this. And if you encounter them, you will certainly experience, at the very least, you will experience their coldness and their lack of humanity. Or you will always feel mentally disturbed. You will always be played by them. You'll never find a compatible relationship. You never will. And you will probably, like myself, over a lifetime wonder why. You will say, why is that person not fully human? Or why have they caused so many catastrophes in my life? You will probably think that it's all accidental, but in reality, these psychopathic, malignantly narcissistic people actually do deliberately, consciously set up disasters for you at a psychological and physical level. They actually do. And it's only when you encounter these individuals and actually analyse and study your past relationships that you understand this. But it may take many a year, like myself, before you figure this out. And by that time, of course, the damage is already done. And then if you say, well, now I figured out that there's a larger population of psychos in the city and that they're around me everywhere, then of course they will actually openly collaborate and combine to work against you. Of course, this city's set-up system has probably always been in existence. It's just that, like I say, until you reach a certain awareness, they can pretty much play possum. In other words, because you can have secret surveillance and you can have completely out in the open city surveillance where everyone is aware of it. And it's just a matter of what is eventually openly accepted and brought in. But just because it's not out in the open doesn't mean that it's not actually happening. It's just that it's only being exposed to certain individuals that they know would not willingly take part in this, I think. Because not only are you a different species, but you probably just wouldn't agree with those particular conditions. And so they actually are aware of that, because if they see anyone that likes a bit more freedom or that just does their own thing, that shows them that you are not going to be willingly part of their complete suppressive 100% surveillance system. And why would you? Why would you? Even if your life depended on you, probably say, I'll take my chances, because it really would give you no privacy, no ability to even do, it's not about doing right or wrong. It is about, I can't even explain it, but you'd have to be the sort of person that wants to, like these beings, where they're almost happy to give up their own identity, shall we say, in order to be part of the whole. So they believe in a cyborg reality, they believe in technology. Just like if you're part of the army, you follow orders and you believe in what that army is doing and what that army stands for. You don't question it. You're happy to be a foot soldier for the powers that be. You will wage war against unknown civilians and people you shouldn't have any grudge or anything against. You will wage war against them and exterminate them because you believe in your organisation. You believe in the army that you're fighting for. You become part of that group. And often that group is a belief system too. So once it becomes like that, people will do wrong things or destroy people in pursuit of a belief system or even an ideology, because their attitude is very much like, I've been told, for the good of all. I have to be eliminated for the good of all. Even though it's a reverse world, so it's probably the other way round. See? But people don't want to see it.